get down to business? Join seasoned entrepreneur, community leader, and Army veteran Scott Shalom Klein, who will take you behind the scenes with those who work in America's small business scene and speak with leaders making an impact, creating jobs, and telling their story in entrepreneurship. So let's get down to business. On AM 560, The Answer, here's your host, Shalom Klein.
And indeed, we're all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. In business, we talk all about small business here. You're listening to Get Down to Business, and we are going to kick off today's program with an expert who helps people find the clarity that they're desperately seeking in their lives. Our guest is Alaina. She's a renowned leadership coach and the CEO of Purpose Linked Consulting. She's a member of Marshall Goldsmith's prestigious 100 coaches and has spent decades helping leaders and organizations find purpose. Now she's brought her powerful, scientifically grounded tools to the broader public in her new book, Permission to Be You. Discover your purpose and passion to bring your best self to everything and everyone. The book is a roadmap for personal transformation. It's about empowering people to understand what truly drives them so they can navigate challenges and find their way to a more meaningful life. Welcome, Alaina. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
My pleasure. So good to be with you.
Absolutely. Alaina, your book starts from the premise that people are seeking purpose and meaning. Why do you think this need is so strong right now? And how has, world events accelerated this search?
I think people have been searching for meaning for a very long time. I think the desire to find it really ratcheted up during COVID, where people started to realize, hey, my life might not be as long as I thought it was going to be. And I've got maybe less tomorrows ahead of me than I thought I did. And I want to be doing things that matter. So I think being brought face to face with the potential of a crisis like that at global proportions really taught people to look at what's really going on in their lives and what's important. And many of them were left feeling like, I want to do something that's more aligned with who I am and what my purpose in the world is to accomplish.
Alaina, you've been helping leaders in the corporate world for years. What made you decide to take this framework from the business space and apply it to the broader public? What's the biggest difference that you've seen in applying it to individuals versus large organizations?
Well, it's really interesting. It was really my clients who prompted me doing this. There were so many times when I got called behind closed doors and I'd have somebody say to me, can you do this for my spouse or my partner? Or can you do this for my child? Or can you do this for my brother-in-law who's struggling? Because they were finding that understanding their passions and purpose and how they applied it to the work setting that they were in was also having an outsized impact on how they were living their lives and how they were navigating relationships that they had in their personal life. So it was really my clients that I can credit with the idea to bring this to the broader population.
The title of your book is Permission to Be You, and you also mentioned 10 permissions to give yourself. Can you share a few examples of these permissions and how they help people overcome emotional roadblocks?
Well, the first and most important thing to understand about the 10 permissions is that very often I would work with people and they've done a lot of hard work to understand themselves, to understand their passions, to understand their purpose, and still felt stuck. And I realized with many of them that the reason they were stuck was because there was some permission to give themselves that they needed to do and that they hadn't done. And that was sort of the big roadblock in front of them. So I started to examine what were these permissions? What were the roadblocks for people? And it was things like permission to fail, permission to be vulnerable, permission to play, permission to change your mind, permission to embrace something new and different. And I think that folks found themselves in situations where without those permissions being granted, they were going to be in the same place that they'd always been.
Fascinating. Your work introduces the idea of different personality types or passion types, such as the creator, the transformer, or the teacher. Can you explain a little bit about what these are and how they help someone gain insight into their own behavior and purpose?
Well, there are 10 passion archetypes that we all have in us to greater or lesser degrees. The trick is really to understand what your top 3 are, because our research shows that if you do, you understand the strengths you're likely to enjoy and the vulnerabilities you might be more subject to. And the idea of understanding these passion archetypes is that it helps you understand how you are perceived by others and how you perceive others based on your passions. So these are things like creator, conceiver, discoverer, processor, teacher, connector, altruist, healer, transformer, and builder. And all of us are all of those things, but every one of us has a top 3 that really guides and directs how we live our lives, how we look at the world, and how we respond to it.
I'm chatting with Alaina Love, the author of Permission to Be You, Discover Your Purpose and Passion to Bring Your Best Self to Everything and Everyone. Alaina, I love the title and I love the important work that you are doing. It's so relevant to our small business and entrepreneurial audience. But Alaina, I want to take a little bit of a glimpse behind the microphone. Alaina, how did you get into this line of work? How did you become so passionate yourself in helping people discover their passion in their own lives and in their own businesses?
Well, I was a corporate executive, and I started out in my career as a research scientist and gradually moved into human resources, which is an unusual jump. And I was really successful at what I was doing. I was told by my boss, hey, you're going to be in the succession plan to replace me when I leave this job. And he was reporting to the CEO. So it should have been news that made me really excited. Instead, I felt like, I'm not sure I want this. I thought this is what I had been working towards, but I'm not sure I want it. And I realized it really wasn't something that was fueling my passions. It didn't feel aligned with my purpose. Although if you had asked me what that was, I couldn't have told you the answer to that question. So when I began to think about it, I realized there weren't any tools out there that could help people navigate the divide that they were finding between what they were doing every day and who they are at their core. So this work really was begun with my own experience of deciding this isn't what I want to do and making a different choice. It was a scary thing to do. Don't try it at home. This is what's the commercial say? This is a stunt driver and a
right.
course. Do not try this at home.
Right. And Alaina, you write that a person's sense of purpose and passion becomes a crucial anchor during times of adversity. I mean, I appreciate what you just shared in your own life, but can you share maybe an example, either from your own life or your work with clients that illustrates this point?
Well, I think people go through lots of different challenges in their lifetimes. You don't get to live and not go through some. And I've worked with all different kinds of leaders and teams who have gone through different challenges. And what I find is that when they understand their passions, they understand how to better navigate those challenges. And a lot of times it's done after the fact. So, for example, I talk about someone in the book who has experienced a profound loss. He had a child, his wife had a child that was stillborn. And he struggled deeply for more than 20 years with grief over the loss of that child until he learned what his passions were and realized he's a builder. And as a builder, the last thing you want to do is fail at a goal. And somehow he felt like he had failed at protecting his child from something that was impossible for him to protect her from. So with that knowledge, he became much more at peace within himself over what had transpired. And he could talk about his child without bursting into tears after 20 years of that experience being his everyday life.
Alaina, for someone listening who feels stuck and doesn't know where to start, what's one immediate step that they could take today to begin the journey of discovering their purpose and passions?
Well, I think they can start with this book because it's meant to be a traveling companion on a journey to better understanding yourself. It offers lots of information just between the pages of the book that prompt you to reflect and learn and think about who you are. Then there are access to a suite of tools that is going to be on the website associated with the book that will help you do your own reflection, your own mini assessments. And then, of course, you have access to taking several versions of the Passion Profiler that we'll have available for readers. There's a Passion Profiler on self-awareness. There's a Passion Profiler for romantic relationships. And later this fall, we'll be introducing a Passion Profiler for students.
Amazing. I've been chatting with Alaina Love. It's a fantastic, fantastic read, and I recommend all of our listeners pick up a copy of the book, Permission to Be You, Discover Your Purpose and Passions to Bring Your Best Self to Everything and Everyone. So relevant for small business owners and entrepreneurs, regardless of what industry. And Alaina, I want to give the final word over to you to make sure our listeners can find the book, find your website, and get in touch with you. How can we do so?
Well, you can reach me at permissiontobeyoubook.com, which has information on the book and all of the tools I talked about. I'm available on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook.
Fantastic. Alaina Love, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Come back to share more advice, so relevant, again, for all of our listeners. And we've been on the air for over 12 years, and I can't recommend highly enough that you go on your favorite podcast app, search for Get Down to Business, subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss a single episode. We always post show notes and link to amazing guests like Alaina Love. And we've got a great show still in store for you. 3 more guests this week on Get Down to Business. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. I'd love to know what topics are relevant in your entrepreneurial journey. Which of our guests has brought relevance that you've actually been able to put into action? We always love to leave our listeners with a homework assignment. So be sure to visit my website, syklein.com, syklein.com. Click the contact button. I respond to every message, and I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Tom Marabali, for all things health insurance. He's at healthplanchicago.com, healthplanchicago.com. But we're going to squeeze in a very quick break over here. Chicago, and wherever you may be listening, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back and Get Down to Business.